I got this awesome rocker switcher panel for my John boat. 15 bucks off of Amazon. The cool thing about this is it's fused. It's got inline fuses here, so you don't have to run through a fuse block. It makes it a little bit more complicated. If you blow a fuse, you kind of got to figure out where it is. But I wanted to walk through the wiring diagram for this because it does look pretty complicated on the back, but when you break it down, it's pretty simple. You've got two 12-volt in, so really you're just going to tie these two together and have this coming from your battery. These red wires with the inline fuses is what feeds the 12 volt to your switch panel. And that 12 volts is basically jumped from the two incoming wires to your 12 volt USB, and then each circuit feeds two switches. So as you can see here, let's not look at that side, let's look at this side. 12 volts in, you feed your USB power, then it jumps from the USB power in and feeds 12 volts to the right two switches. If you blow this fuse, you know it's either here or these two. And the same thing on the other side. You got 12 volts coming in, it feeds the 12 volt power supply here, and then it jumps with these two red wires, it jumps the 12 volts in to the left switches. So if this fuse is blown, it's either because of this guy or these two switches. Really just going to tie these two together, feed 12 volts from your battery to here, and that's going to feed power to the whole switch panel. And then to get 12 volts from your switch, when you turn your switch on, you've got to tie into number 3 here, and this would go to whatever you're feeding power to. So if it is a LED, bilge pump, whatever, 12 volts would come from here to that load, whatever item is using power that you want to turn on. And then when you switch that switch, it goes 12 volts, jumps over to here, and then it's 12 volts out to that load. So that's basically it. And then on the negative side, you don't have to have negative come back here. Negative just ties together and goes to the negative terminal on your battery. A lot of times if you have a fuse block, you'll have a negative bus bar, negative bus, and you'll just tie all the negative lines back to that bus. So basically all of those get tied back together and then feed back to the negative terminal on the battery. That's really it for the power going to whatever you're turning on and off. There's additional wires here. These wires control the lights on the switch panel. Feed power and tie the black back into the negative circuit, back negative to battery, then it's going to feed the main lights here to tell you which switches are on and off. So we'll try to mock that up here on the battery. I've got the incoming 12 volts on the right side hooked to 12 volts coming in. I've got the black wire, which is the negative for the main switch lights. Touch a negative. Now the lights will come on and off whenever I switch them. These aren't going to work, remember, because they're fed by this, the left side incoming 12. But usually you tie these together when you're installing it. I got these two hooked up to 12 volts coming in. This blue one hooked up to 12 volts coming in. That's your 12 volts for your switch location lights. These two 12 volts are going to supply all your lights and motors or whatever you're running through your switches, but these also control the switch ID, the main lights on the switches, and then these two are just negative for your switch lights. When you flip that switch, it closes the circuit for that 12 volt coming from here in your switch, out the bottom of your switch, following the 12 volts to whatever you have that you're powering, and then the return, the negative side, all the way back, ties into all your other negatives, and it goes directly back to your battery. The right way to do it is have a fuse box, have a negative bus bar, instead of having to wire up a wiring harness. I'm doing it the fast, cheap way. I got switch number 4 turned on. But when I touch 12 volt wire for that light, it should come on. Oh, that's awesome. Hope you got a little something out of this video. Hit subscribe if you did. You hitting that little button helps small YouTube channels out a tremendous amount. And as always, if you're out on the water, pick up trash. Don't be that person who ruins it for everybody. Later.